Hello, I'm Martin Hazy, Chief Executive Officer of Business SA, your Chamber of Commerce and Industry here in South Australia. I'm here with Jordan Smith, Business SA's Policy Advisor, and we're here to chat with you about the 22-23 financial year budget released by the State Government of South Australia this week. Now, this is an important time for all business people here in South Australia because this budget forecasts revenues of about $23.8 billion for the State Government and expenditures of $23.6 billion, producing a small surplus. But what we really want to talk about today is what's in it for the hardworking business community right here in South Australia. So, Jordan, on a state government which came into power on the 19th of March this year, focused on health, education, infrastructure, hydrogen as an energy source for this state, if you're a business owner in this state, what does this budget mean to you?
So it means businesses can expect no new taxes as we see a surplus after the last 2 years of budget deficits, and that means no new taxes for businesses, as well as no unnecessary increases to fees and charges. But let's talk about skills in particular. That's the number one concern for businesses over the last 2 years. And there's a few measures in this budget that talk directly to that. Firstly is the 5 new technical colleges, 1 in Mount Gambier and 1 in Port Pirie, and the other 3 in Adelaide metro area. Other measures and initiatives we saw in this budget was the $8.8 million directed at industry demanded skills, such as bricklaying and whatever else is identified. We also saw additional funding for TAFE, as well as additional funding for the Skilling Australia Fund. The other major theme we saw in this budget was a significant investment in the hydrogen economy, with almost $600 million over the next 4 years being invested in the new hydrogen electrolyser and generator over in Whyalla, as well as a significant investment in Port Bonython.
Jordan, the state government's significant commitment towards the hydrogen electrolyser in Whyalla, we've got a state which has got an abundance of wind and solar infrastructure to generate renewable energy. Why is there such a need to bring hydrogen into the mix?
So the energy grid at the moment is in a state of transition. With so many renewables in the grid, it's creating quite a volatile grid. So that requires a lot of firming and baseload power, which used to be supplied by gas generators and coal generators. So this hydrogen generator will be a clean alternative to those traditional generators.
Jordan, this hydrogen infrastructure piece from the state government is clearly going to involve a great deal of state government procurement. So I'd like to focus on that issue of state government procurement. A lot of our members prior to the election were sharing with us that they want to see more of the state government procurement pie shared with local businesses. How does this budget help achieve that?
So before the election, we saw the Labor's policy making the public dollar work, and that was aimed at redirecting 5% of state procurement to South Australian businesses. That's almost estimated to be about $400 million. That's one initiative they're taking. Some of the other initiatives we saw were a 3-month forward plan for tenders, as well as funding provided to the Office of the Industry Advocate to run workshops for local businesses.
Jordan, let's talk about infrastructure. So enabling better business outcomes for South Australian SMEs requires good infrastructure around the state. What's the investment in this budget into infrastructure which would support business?
So we didn't see many new infrastructure projects announced. We saw a 5-year upgrade for the Marion Road between Anzac Highway and Cross Road, as well as an on and off ramp for the Southern Expressway at Majors Road, and more importantly, a full duplication of the main South Road between Seaford and Sellex Beach. Also, we saw the North-South Corridor project pushed out for another year, and that has impacted the bottom line.
Jordan, for many business operators around South Australia, the price they pay for various government services can be material. The Labor government has promised no new taxes, no increases in fees and charges. Has that translated into the 22-23 financial year budget?
Yeah, absolutely, Martin. We saw no new taxes. We saw fees and charges only indexed to 2% for the year, and that's far below 4.7% for the Adelaide CPI measure.
Jordan, in recent weeks, Premier Malinauskas announced a $100 million economic recovery fund for South Australia to support businesses that have been materially impacted by COVID over the last couple of years. What does that mean in this budget?
So what does that mean is that there's $90 million in the budget over the next 4 years for additional grants or programs to be allocated at will by the government. We saw $10 million allocated already for the 22-23 financial year, and that's going towards innovation manufacturing grants.
Jordan, Business SA has a very close working relationship with the regional chambers of commerce and industry right around South Australia. In the 22-23 financial year budget, what's in it for regional South Australia?
So obviously the largest investment we saw in the regions was the new hydrogen facility out at Whyalla. We also saw the reintroduction of the outer areas registration concession for regional owners of vehicles. We saw some fee relief for the rock lobster industry, which has been hit hard after the last 2 years. We also saw 20 million allocated for the improvement of outback roads. That's to help with the recent flooding that we saw earlier this year.
Jordan, exports are very important to the South Australian economy, but the reality is that in recent years the state has been underperforming when it comes to the national export pie. What does this budget do to help grow exports in South Australia?
Yeah, so we saw the reintroduction of Brand SA, which is going to help businesses promote their products and services. We also saw funding for a new body called Invest SA, which will hopefully bring further investment into the state, as well as more jobs. But Business SA would have liked to have seen some further funding to help businesses looking to export overseas.
Jordan, through Business SA's own membership base here in South Australia, we are certainly seeing more women business owners, business leaders, business managers, and more women on boards. Now, the state government has been consistent in terms of their position with regards to supporting women in business. What does this budget do for women in business?
Yeah, so we saw the allocation of $4 million over the next 4 years to run a program for women in business, particularly targeted at women in micro and startup businesses. While a bit light on details, we understand the program will be targeted at essential business skills.
Jordan, the state government's 22-23 financial year budget, what's missing for the business community?
While there's a lot of good measures in this budget, we didn't see the continuation of the payroll tax discount for apprentices and trainees, and then continuing on with payroll tax. We would have liked to see a payroll tax discount for regional businesses. If you're a business operating near the Victorian border, you're competing with Victorian businesses who are paying the quarter of the rate that South Australian equivalents are paying. That's quite a disadvantage, Martin.
That certainly is. Jordan, thank you. And to our members right across South Australia in all industries, thank you for listening to our 22-23 State Government of South Australia budget breakdown. Our members will be sent EDMs and more information, and please do not hesitate to contact our policy team if you'd like any more details. Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Martin.